Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick with me? Famous scenes with drama queens and heroes acting out there on a silver screen. Come grab a seat, the popcorn is on me.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Hello, welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here, hanging out with Mr. Thomas Manning. We are talking cinema right here on C19 TV. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I am just thrilled and delighted to be here. We're talking about Men on Roofs. We're talking about, color books and, maybe even, not just one battle, but one battle after another. You never know what you're going to find here on Meet Me in the Movies, especially when you get Thomas Manning back for his monthly appearance. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And who knows, we may even talk about a golf game with Owen Wilson and a guy on a piano that won a few Grammys by the name of Billy Joel. We'll just see what we get to right here on this episode of Meet Me at the Movies. Well, Thomas,
I was really confused there. I was really confused there at first because I thought you were talking about within the Apple TV Plus series Stick that there was a guy on a piano and that, and I'm like, I must not have seen that episode. So, but I see what you're getting at now. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a documentary, and So It Goes is the name of it, looking at the life of Billy Joel. So if we don't get to it this time, we'll get to it at some point, and we can always recommend that you check out the short take of it, a screen scene version, if we don't get to it. But we'll let you know. We'll let you know. Well, Thomas, you got a chance to go to I don't know if this was the Charlotte or the North Carolina screening, or was it the international? It was a Charlotte screening of Roofman, and the film was shot in and around the Charlotte area. So that made it pretty special to go check this out.
Yeah, so this was the first time it had screened in Charlotte. This played at the Carolina Theater, the newly restored Carolina Theater in Uptown Charlotte. And the film is Roofman, directed by Derek Cianfrance, starring Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst. And, Charlotte, we live just west of there, about 50 miles west. And so it's not like we're from Charlotte, but that's our closest major city. And that's a city I grew up visiting a lot. I still visit there quite a bit for various events and activities, but it's also not a city that you see represented in movies, at least in comparison to like Chicago or New York or LA. However, Channing Tatum, this is not the first movie of his that's taken place in Charlotte. So you go back to the Steven Soderbergh film Logan Lucky, which is probably one of the most creative heist films I've ever seen.
Yes.
And Roofman is in itself, it kind of falls within that heist genre. So this is the second film of Channing Tatum's career in which he plays the divorced father of a young daughter who commits a heist in the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. As I mentioned at this Charlotte premiere, the director was there in attendance, and there were a lot of great conversations to be had after the film as well. A Q&A moderated by former WBTV journalist Molly Grantham. It was wonderful to see her there. I know she's definitely beloved in the Charlotte community. But this is inspired by the real life escapades of Jeffrey Manchester. He was a U.S. Army veteran who turned later on to a life of crime. He robbed dozens of McDonald's across North Carolina from sneaking in through the roof. That's how he got his name. But then he escaped from prison and lived in a Toys R Us for 6 months in Charlotte while hiding out from the law. And it's those 6 months where this film primarily takes place. And the craziest part is not that he lived in the Toys R Us for 6 months, but that he created a double life outside of that, right under the nose of the authorities. He became an active member at a local church, formed a relationship with a member of the church, Lee Wainscott, who was played by Kirsten Dunst. So he basically became a family man here. And it's such a, he's such a complex figure. And, he was never a violent person. And so even though he was a criminal who he did put lives in danger, but he himself always avoided violence at all costs. And you can see his genuine care for the people that he encounters. And not only that, but he was basically a genius in some aspects. Like his IQ was on another level. The way that you would have to be a genius to figure out how to live undetected in a Toys R Us for that long. But also we see that in other aspects, he is just totally clueless and oblivious, and all that's going to catch up with him. And it's almost like his humanity and the fact that he actually somewhere had a good heart and a good soul, that was ultimately his downfall. I mean, this is all true. It's all a true story, so I'm not really spoiling anything. This is something that you can look up. But I think it's Tatum had to be the guy to imbue this character with all this sensitivity and with this charm. He's someone who contains multitudes. And, you know, as the viewer, we feel for him, and we found ourselves rooting for him, and we want him to have his cake and eat it too, because we want him to get away with this, but we also want him to, find this peace and contentment in his life with this found family. But we also know that those are not, eventually one is going to catch up with the other, and it's not something that can go on forever. There was a conversation, so Derek Sanfrance, as I mentioned, was there for a post-screening Q&A, and I think a quote of his that really stuck with me, he was talking about some of his conversations with the real life pastor from the church that Jeffrey Manchester went to. And in a conversation with him, he asked that pastor, his thoughts on the Bible. And he said, the Old Testament is kind of leans towards judgment, and the New Testament is about grace. And in his life, he tried to err on the side of grace. And he said that that's kind of how that was kind of their compass for this film, was to explore that grace as much as they could, as it relates to the character, the real life person of Jeffrey Manchester, as played by Channing Tatum. So it was a movie that I did not expect to move me as deeply as it did. And it's also just special to see a city that I know very well, to quite a familiar extent, to see that represented in a huge Hollywood production like this.
When you and I talked just briefly after this, you said this is definitely one of your favorites of the year so far. And you still feel that way now that you've had a chance to kind of digest it? It sounds like that's the case.
Yeah. Well, since I thought about it, after I've thought about it, I'm like, what is not? Just kidding. Yeah, it's great. It's phenomenal. It's probably going to be top 5 of the year for me.
Wow.
I think it's Tatum's best performance I've seen from him. And I will say that, Ben Mendelsohn, who, you may recognize from a variety of projects, but most recently Andor and Rogue One, he plays the pastor in this film, and his character introduction, I almost just clapped. I almost burst into applause. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. He's got his long white hair. It is just incredible. When you see it, you'll probably clap as well. So
that's awesome. So Roofman, you can't find that in theaters now, and I guess limited theaters now, and then it's wide on the 10th of October. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Awesome. So Thomas, Roofman sounds like it's getting some major love from you. What is your rating for this new film?
I'm going to give a solid A to Roofman.
Solid A to Roofman. If you are from North Carolina, especially the Charlotte region, I think you will really deeply appreciate it. If nothing else, just because of the Charlotte connections. And then before you watch it, though, go watch Logan Lucky again, just because. Why not? Because you should watch Logan Lucky again every chance you get. Well, Thomas, going from Charlotte to Nashville, you had a chance to go to the Nashville Film Fest for the second consecutive year, and you were really impressed with a couple of things that you gathered from this film festival.
Yeah, as you mentioned, my second year in a row in the Nashville Film Festival, and I love how accessible everything is, and it gives you an opportunity to directly interact with the artist and with the filmmakers, which, is something we try to do a lot on a smaller scale at the Reel to Reel Film Festival in Kings Mountain, and Nashville. It's very much that same feel, that same community-oriented atmosphere, just on a larger scale, and but there are much more films that they show there, much more resources. But it's a really nice festival that they have, and it's 56th year there. And
Wow.
one film in particular that I want to mention, Color Book, directed by David Fortune, and you can see my interview or read my interview with David Fortune on, I guess we can put it on my website here, thethomasmanning.substack.com. You can find that extended conversation, directorial debut of David Fortune, and it's basically a day in the life of a father with his son who has Down syndrome, and recently they have just lost their mother and their wife, and takes place in Atlanta, Georgia, and shot in black and white. And we just go through and see an entire journey over the course of a day with, a father who is both learning how to best support his grieving son, and also learning how to grieve himself as a man who just lost his wife. And it is something that the casting in particular was something that David talked about a lot in our interview, that you have William Catlett plays the father figure, and then Jeremiah Alexander Daniels is the child. And he talked about casting William in particular. He went directly to his church family and talked to the people surrounding his church and told them about his film, and word got around to William, and that's how he came out of this project. So I think that story right there just shows how deeply personal this entire film was, and it really was focusing on something so specific that could also be a universal story that a lot of people related to in various aspects. As we talked about Charlotte earlier, well, the city of Atlanta is a place that is special to me as well. My aunt lives there, and visited her many, many times over the years, and explored that city quite a bit. And David talked about in our interview as well that when he screened this film in Atlanta a few times, and when he does, those audience interactions they just reach a different kind of level. And I think that's actually kind of the experience I had with Roofman. So
Wow.
It kind of feels like really cool that I saw these films within a week of each other, and had that, realized they were kind of intertwined in that fashion. So David Fortune, he's a name that you're going to want to remember, and someone that he's got an extensive catalog of short films he's worked on over the years as well. But this was his first feature film, and hopefully the first of many, because Color Book was it's a true beauty.
Color Book, giving a rating for that, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm going to give an A to Color Book as well.
A to Color Book and A to Roofman. Both of those films on the A list right here on Meet Me at the Movies. We're going to take a quick intermission. We're going to come back, talk more about the Nashville Film Festival, and a film called Louder Than Guns. I believe that's on your list, Thomas. And then we'll also go from that to one battle after another. So stick around right here on Meet Me at the Movies. Quick intermission right here.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
As Cleveland County's premier event facility, LeGrand Center is the ideal location for any event. The LeGrand Center is located 45 minutes west of Charlotte, 45 minutes north of Spartanburg, and just a little over an hour east of Asheville. Whether you're a small business looking for a place for an off-site meeting, or a bride looking for that special location for her wedding, LeGrand Center is the perfect place for you.
Washington Outreach Ministries is one of the largest emergency food pantry in Cleveland County. We feed about 15,000 people a month. We have bi-weekly distribution every other Friday, and we serve them with all type of product, not just food product, but all type of necessities. Anything that they need, we have here and we can supply it. Food is available every day, but we offer bi-weekly distribution so the mass of Cleveland County can come through and enjoy some of the food products that we have here.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Hello, welcome back to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here with Thomas Manning. We appreciate you joining us as we talk cinema. Before the break, Roofman in theaters, limited theaters now, and then wide release on October the 10th. A rating from Thomas, and then Thomas is reviewing the Nashville Film Festival, a few films, including Color Book, A rating for that as well. And Thomas, another film at the Nashville Film Festival you got a chance to check out that you really wanted to talk about, Louder Than Guns.
That's right. So this is a documentary that combines journalistic perspectives with also an approach as a music documentary. And the musicians in question are a band that I'm sure our audiences may be familiar with, Old Crow Medicine Show. They were discovered in Boone, North Carolina, there on King Street, and of course, famously known for Wagon Wheel. And their frontman is a guy by the name of Ketch Secor. And a lot of this documentary is told from his perspective, and very somber material. After one of the shootings, the school shootings a few years ago in Nashville at the Covenant School, Ketch Secor kind of took it upon himself to say that, obviously something's needed to change for a long time, but he's in a unique position in the country music scene, and he is, very familiar with where that places him on certain, in certain environments with the discussion of guns and the conversation surrounding guns and their place in our society. But he basically said that country music can lead America out of its obsession with guns. So that was the title of an op-ed he wrote for the New York Times. And
interesting.
So he got into contact with a friend and NPR journalist David Green, and this documentary chronicles their journey across the country to have just real conversations with real people on all sides of the issues, to talk about how can we figure out a way to make things better in this regard, because regardless of it's not a political discussion to say that any person dying of gun violence is one too many, and it is it's an epidemic across our country, in schools, in churches, concerts, movie theaters. It's something that should not be happening the way that it is, and I think that is something that people on all sides of the political spectrum do agree on, is that it shouldn't be happening. It's just there's conflicting approaches on how to how this issue should be approached, and so that's what this documentary is about. It's just there are people like Ketch Secor and David Green. They are on the ground doing something to make change, but this is a movement that needs to continue to grow and reach the people in power, reach the people in government, just as, and they need to be putting in the work doing as much as people on the ground like you and me are doing, or people who, come from our class are doing. And I think this film is an important nexus of, journalists, artists, and everyday people, and how we can be the ones to make the change. But it's something that needs to reach people, in all corners of society, and it can't just be something that one person does alone. It's something that must be achieved by small daily steps, and at a certain point, people in power have to kind of follow in our footsteps as well.
Interesting, fascinating, Thomas. The documentary is called Louder Than Guns. Thomas, got a chance to check that out at the Nashville Film Festival. Any final thoughts or comments you want to make sure you share about this doc?
Yeah, so it's actually based on the title of the documentary is derived from a song that Old Crow Medicine Show wrote as well, called "Louder Than Guns," and beautiful song that's kind of the theme music for this doc. And there's also an original score with this documentary as well, which I think did a great job, both complimenting Old Crow Medicine Show's music as a band, but also the subject matter as well. So I think, great look at just the blend of how music is always, one of the art forms that speaks to the current moment more than anything else can. And I think, what Catch, Secor, and everybody involved in this is doing, it is so unbelievably important, and I hope they continue to do so, and I hope that, people like us can continue to do what we can to pitch in and help as well.
Awesome, Thomas. Your rating for Louder Than Guns?
Yeah, Louder Than Guns. I'll give a B+ to Louder Than Guns.
All right, B+, Louder Than Guns. Thomas, we've got about 8 minutes, and I know you want to make sure you get a chance to talk about this movie that's about 12 hours long, called One Battle After Another. Is this got one of my guys from Last of Mohicans showing up for a few minutes as well.
That's right. Eric Schweig, he is in this, and only about 5 minutes of screen time, like 2 or 3 scenes, but I walked away thinking about his performance just as much as I did Leonardo DiCaprio or Benicio del Toro or Sean Penn. This, you mentioned this is a film, it's almost 3 hours long. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it moves like a locomotive. It doesn't stop for that entire nearly 3 hour runtime. If I didn't have a watch with me, but even if I did, I wouldn't have checked it. This directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, of course, one of the greats, and based on the book called Vineland by Thomas Pynchon, which was written in 1990, took place during 1984 primarily, with flashbacks to the Nixon era. And in the case of this film takes place in present day with flashbacks to like the late 2000s, 2009, 2010. And it reminds us that some of the battles and troubles that we encounter in our world, politically, socially, culturally, what may feel like entirely new problems are to, certain people, they've been faced by other people for hundreds of years, for entire generations. And if there's something that's happening to us and we think nobody's ever seen this in history, you look at someone who might come from, someone who might be in a minority group or someone who might be underprivileged, they're like, this is not new whatsoever. This is something that my grandparents faced, and it's what we faced. And, we've got to keep standing our ground as they did before us. There's a line from Benicio del Toro in this, his character, he's basically a martial arts sensei who, DiCaprio, who is a former revolutionary who has been in hiding for years, and then his daughter is kidnapped. So DiCaprio goes to Del Toro's character for help, and he's like, we're under siege here. What are we going to do? And Del Toro says, it's all right. We've been under siege for 300 years. This is what we do. And it discusses the cyclical nature of history and how it's up to us to break the cycle, which also does kind of feel in dialogue with Louder Than Guns, the documentary we just mentioned. I feel like DiCaprio, just, looking at the acting here, I think he's unlocked something once he turned about 40 years old. There's just something that he couldn't have reached when he was younger. He had to grow a little bit more world weary, I think. And I think he's only going to grow more captivating as a performer the older he gets, whether you look at something like this or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Killers of the Flower Moon. All of these are performances that he couldn't have made if he was in his 20s or 30s. This has to be him now, and I love to see where he's going. And one other performance I'll mention, Chase Infinity, who plays DiCaprio's daughter in this. She is just as much kind of a linchpin for this movie than anybody else. she had a lot on her shoulders. I don't think I'd seen her in anything else. I mean, she's around my age, and I think this was her first major feature film role. And yeah, I couldn't stop thinking about what she brought to the screen as well. So yeah, this is one of the. I'm so glad I saw this film in the full IMAX. It was in the full IMAX ratio for the entirety of the runtime, and it's one that I'm going to go out of my way to see again, at least one more time in theaters and multiple times once I get a chance to get a hands on a 4K.
So as we are approaching award season, we're starting to get invites. Is this one of those films that when we start tallying some votes, this might show up on maybe your year-end list as well?
But yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. I think, honestly, I think two of the films that are going to be duking it out this award season are this and Sinners from earlier this year, the Ryan Coogler film. And yeah, as far as movies that have used the language of cinema to, the best extent and to see what you can do with pushing that language forward, I think this and Sinners are, two of the best examples of that I've seen this year.
Awesome. So your rating for One Battle After Another, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm going to give an A to One Battle After Another as well. So, yeah.
Wow. A great lineup this week on Meet Me at the Movies. Thomas has given A's and B pluses. So pretty good lineup. I've got just a minute here. I am going to mention the Billy Joel documentary, And So It Goes, that you can find on HBO. And I think they have delivered one of the most compelling music documentaries of the year. In this particular music doc. It's a two-part deep dive into the life, the career, and really the complexities of the guy that we've known for years as the Piano Man. Over 3 hours long, it covers everything. Joel's childhood, early days with a band called The Hassles, and then the triumphs, the tragedies, and kind of the missteps of his legendary career. And one of the things that elevates this documentary, it's not just the host of interviews from family members past and present and former bandmates, music critics, and icons like Paul McCartney, Sting, and Bruce Springsteen. But it's the rich archival footage and the performances that you see throughout the years, and you really get a chance to remember all of these classic songs that he's given us. For me, Joel was one of the first singer-songwriters that I found on my own. Yet, as I watched this documentary, it made me realize that this guy who was known for being able to produce blues, pop, country, classical, stylistic music really echoed the music that my parents introduced me to. And my dad, he was a classical pianist, a master of the keyboard. So really it's no surprise that I was driven to this piano-driven storyteller. So Billy Joel, And So It Goes, it does not hold back. And we see interviews with Joel on screen throughout his career. And it's just phenomenal. Solid A rating for me for this documentary that you can find on HBO or HBO Max, depending on how you want to say that. Any final thoughts on your end, Thomas, before we wrap the show today?
Just always or never forget that Charlotte is the gateway to Gastonia. So
that's right. You may be right. I may be crazy, but hey, that's why we're here on Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here with Thomas Manning. Appreciate you, Thomas. Thanks for sharing all this rich material today. And we thank you for listening to us, spending time with us, watching us. Right here on C19 TV. And until next time, for the entire cast and crew is Thomas Manning. I'm Noel T. Manning II. That's a wrap.
We'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.